You'll forgive me, Linus. I thought this thing was recording. In fact, it wasn't, right. So I believe this is part two of that of the previous session that we just had now, right? So this will be part two of finance, right? So now we'll be dealing with the interest, right? And the period which is known as the number of payment, right? So how do you know? Some of you may be surprised whenever you see people multiplying or dividing on those equations, right? So just simply know that you'll only do that given the number of compoundings, right? So what is meant by that? Whenever you see compounded quarterly, whenever you see compounded quarterly on a statement, it simply means that you will divide your I by 4 and then multiply the number of years by 4, right? So given 5 years, suppose given 5 years, you'll multiply that 5 by 4, right? So you divide, because of this said compounded quarterly. The moment they say compounded monthly, what do you do? How many months do we have? We have 12 months. What do you do to our I? You divide your I by 12 and you multiply your number of years by 12. The same thing will happen whenever they say compounded semi-annually or every 6 months or a half yearly. If they don't want to say 6 months, they can say half yearly. It simply means what do? You will divide by 2. You'll divide your I by 2 and multiply the number of years by 2, right? So and then on this scenario, for compounded every 3 months. Every 3 months, 3 months is a quarter of a year. Just simply know. So it is the same as compounded quarterly, right? So we still have others, we still have many more compoundings, but at grade 12 level and grade 11 and grade 12 level, you are restricted to this. Like this where the examiner is familiar with. Suppose they say daily, right? You just multiply on your I, you will divide by your I, you will divide by 365, since we have 365 days, right? That quarter a day or a half a day, we don't really count that, right? And then you take your number of years and you multiply by 365, right? Now let's go to the real stuff, right? I believe I've okay. Now let's go back to this. I recall, right? Let's go back to this. Now I'm looking for those annuities. So I'm just going to try to look for those annuities that we had before. Since I said this is part two of the first lesson, right? Because of I had just had a technical problem. Is it? No, this one is clean. Let's check this one. Okay, yeah. So now in this case, we say n is the period. We're saying n is the period or the number of payments, right? So now, what if I have to pay? What if in this scenario, like I'm here, right? So in this, from t0 to t up to 3, what from t0 up to t3, what happens is that, okay, now I have to pay, right? And in this case, I'm paying at the end of each month. So like I said, t0 is the beginning of a new month, but I'm paying at the end of the month because of this is an ordinary situation. It's a normal situation. It's an ordinary annuity, right? So here my n is what? Here's my n is 3 in this case. And then the n that we're speaking about, here's our n. We will find our n, and thereafter, whenever we have annuity due, we find the n like we do. How do you find the n? We take the number of years and multiply by the number of components, and therefore we'll add 1. We always add 1 whenever we have an annuity due, right? And then I want you to take note that it is very important. I want you to take note, right? And it is okay. Let me do this. Sorry, let me do this. Today we have many distractions. Okay, yeah, yeah. So I want you to note that this immediately at the beginning, right? As well as this the end of. Like you need to be familiar with whenever you read the statement, right? And the other thing that I'm going to teach you is to, to just pick up the keywords on your statement for you to be able to answer the questions, right? So we've been doing a lot of theory. Some of you may be irritated. Let's just simply now dwell into the real stuff, right? And yeah, we always have, okay, I believe it's visible. Let me try to, okay, let me do this. Maybe I can try to fit it here. Yeah, right. So let me increase the bright for you to see. Okay, right. So we are going to look at, like I said, we have to apply whatever we learned, right? I'm still looking for our question, right? Still looking for a question. Okay, where's the question? I don't know what's happening today with me. Okay, this is the first part, that's the second part. No, 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 no. I'm not looking for this question. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna try. Let's do this. I'm just going to try and pick up a question a bit. Okay, now we can continue. I was looking for this question. Now let's check. Right, let's see. Okay, right. I hope all of you can see. So now we are about to apply that theory. You see, we did a lot of talking. Now we have to apply, right? So I don't know if you just realized the first thing that I do is that I teach you and apply, right? And I don't just simply apply the information on just my normal examples, right? This is a question paper. It's a worksheet from the real question paper. So this it is how, excuse, that is the real sequence of the question of the questions, right? So some of the questions you're going to come across them, like the structure remains to be the same. It's just that they will try by all means to make sure that the questions differ, but the technique is the same, right? So now we have, okay, we have question, we have question one, right? On question one, they're saying a company purchases a bus for a price of RX. So they're saying a company purchases a bus of RX, right? And it is expected to have a useful life of N years. Now, they didn't give us the number of years, they said it's N, right? And a scrap value of 18%. Guys, I want you to note first, right? So you need to make sure that whenever you read the statement, you don't just read as if you are reading just random thing. You need to take out the keywords, right? So they're saying a company purchases. This is how we take the keywords. We take the keywords out of the statement. So but they're saying a company purchases a bus for a price of RX. So the original cost or the original price of something becomes your P, right? So meaning in this case, my P is Rx. So it's X rents, right? And then it is expected to have a useful life of N years. Now, what is the number of years, right? That's N. We don't know them. That's N years, right? And then they said a scrap value of 18%. My R now is what? It's 18%, right? Of its, they're saying not I, sorry, not I. They're saying the scrap value. I want you to note when I spoke about the book value and the scrap value, okay, can I write here? We said the scrap value is when something decreases in value. when something is on scrap value, it decreased in value, right? This is where the current amount it's lesser than the previous amount. Because of it, it depreciated. So in this case, they're saying that the scrap value of this bus, which means this bus lost value, right? The scrap value, it's 18% of its original price. What is the original price? The original price is RX. Now they're saying now the new price, which is the amount after. Now I want you to note they're saying a scrap value of 18% of its original purchase. What do they mean? Like I'm saying, we have a scrap value. A scrap value simply means something decreased in value, right? So, meaning this part is going to decrease in value. Now, the current cost will be lesser than the previous cost, will be lesser than excellence, right? Now, they're saying its scrap value, it's 18% of original amount. The moment they say a percentage of something else, you take that percentage and you multiply the something else. Now, they're saying the scrap value of, okay, they're saying a scrap value of 18% of its original amount. That just simply mean it simply means that the scrap value it's 18% of its original amount, right? So what is meant by that? It simply means you're going to say 18% you multiply by what? By x. What is x? X is the original amount, right? And then now we continue. I want you to note what is my P first. My P is X in rents. Why are we saying P is the original cost? So the original cost of the pass was excellent, right? And then N, they told me that it has a useful life of N years. I was not given N, right? I don't have the number of years, yeah. And then now they're saying a scrap value of 18% of its original purchase price. So now it has a scrap value of 18%. That's the scrap value, 80% of the original, right? So the scrap value, it is the amount what? It is the amount after. So now the scrap value is the amount after that particular thing has depreciated. That's why I'm saying my A in this case is 18% times X. P is the original amount. A, they said that it is the scrap value. What is the scrap value? 18% of the original amount. I would say 18 multiplied by the original amount, right? And then they said if the annual depreciation rate, I want you to note this is something that I haven't mentioned. Whenever they speak about rate, right, in this finance, whenever they speak about rate, they refer to the interest, right? Now they're saying, okay, if the annual depreciation rate, do you understand? They say depreciation simply means this thing decreases in value. If the annual depreciation rate is estimated to be 21 per annum, the moment they say okay per annum simply means per year, right? On the reducing balance, determine the value of n. Now we were not given n, right? They are saying I is equivalent to 21%. Now, I'm not going to divide by I by anything because they said per annum, and then per annum is per year, right? And then they said on the reducing balance method, the another keyword they said, okay, if the depreciation rate is estimated to be 21%, right, per annum on the reducing balance method. Now I know the reducing balance method is as follows. This is my equation. That's my reducing balance method. Looking at the first video, if you check the first video, this is where I've showed you, right? Now, the only thing that we're left with is to substitute. We just simply need to substitute everything, right? And I will advise you to convert those percentages into decimals, right? Meaning you will divide by 100 whenever you see any I, right? So, which means my I will be 21 over 100. 21 over 100 is the same as 21%. You either choose, you can write it as 21% on the equation or 21 over 100, since 21 over 100 is 0.21. And 18%, which is my A, 18% over 100, right? You will say 18% over 100x. 80% is the same as 0.18x, right? The only thing that you are left to do is to substitute. Now they're saying on the reduce, okay, now they're saying on the reducing balance determine the values of the value, not the values, the value of n. Here in this case, we have n. We were able to find, we were able to identify our keywords here as well as the formula. By just simply interpreting the statement, you already know everything. You know the formula, you know whatever you have to substitute, the substituents, and then you're done. So now let's write the formula. So the first thing here, we're on question 1, right? Let me erase these two things. So you know that you'll be using this formula. Why? Because of they said on the reducing balance, right? So that's the reducing balance, right? And then what is your A? Your A is the amount after. The amount afterward. Now they speak about a script value, something that is old, it lost value. So what is the amount after? The amount after will be 0, will be 0,18x, because they said the scrap value is 18% of its original amount. And then what is the original amount? Original amount is the original cost. That's the cost. So what is the cost of the price? The cost of the bus. The cost of the bus is x, right? And then you have 1 minus, in this case I have I, which is 0,21. I chose to write it in terms of decimals, right? And then what is my n? I don't have n, right? Now I want you to note that you cannot solve for two. In this case, you cannot deal with these two variables. You need to isolate one. If looking at this, you have x on the left hand side and you have x on the right hand side, right? Since you are looking for n, you have to do what? You have to diminish this x. You have to make sure that this x disappears by doing what? By dividing both sides by x, right? So when I divide your left hand side by x, I'll be left with 0,18, which is equivalent to 1 minus 0,2, 1 to the power n, right? Let's just get our calculator. So, and then like I said, consider the like terms first. Let's what's in the brackets. So what is 1 minus 0,21? 1 minus 0,21, that's 0,79 to the power n. And in this case, there's no way we can make sure that the bases are the same. The only way that we can do the only way that we can just simply use a log. What do we call a log, right? So we are going to bring this n here, right? We are going to bring n down, and then we say the log of, right? So what was the base of n? The base of n was 0,79. Here it becomes the base of the log, and in this case we have 0,18. So can I just simply do this, right? At least for those who are not familiar with logs, right? So this is how log works, right? Suppose I have, okay, a equals to bx, right? A equals to bx. Suppose I'm solving for x, right? And I have to make sure that I make x subject of the formula. What do? You take x, you bring it down, and then you say the log of. And then in this case, we need a base here. So the base of the base, okay, the base of that certain exponent. So the base of that certain exponent becomes the base of the log. So here we'll have b, and in brackets we'll have a. That's that. This is something that I did here, right? I just simply took the base, which is 0,79, and then I included this 0,118 in my parentheses or my brackets, right? So now what is my n in this case? Let's check this out. So I'll have 0,79, okay, supposed to be 0,79 there, and then into 0,8. Yeah, right. I get I get 7,27465 blah blah blah. At least round it to two. At least round it to two decimal places. Now we'll have 7 comma, oh, let me round to one decimal place. We'll have 7,33 years. Why am I saying years, right? So because of our interests per annum, it's per year. So it simply means my n will be in years, right? This is how you are supposed to. This is how you are supposed to present your solution. Let's go back. This is how you are supposed to present your solution. Now let's look at question 2. Right, we are done with question 1. Now let's look at question 2. If you check as time goes on, this like the 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 questions becomes more challenging, right? So we start afresh, and then as time goes on, we just simply arise. So now we have question 2. We have question 2. Now, what happens in question 2? Sorry, can I do this? Okay, we have question 2. Now, what happens in question 2 is that there's a machine which costs, like we take out the keywords, a machine which costs 120,000 rand is estimated to have a useful life of 10 years. Now, let's start. There's a machine which costs, or the cost is what? We know that cost is my original amount, right? So my P in this case will be 120,000 rand, right? And then they're saying it is expected to have a useful life of 10 years. And I know that is 10. 10 is the number of years, right? I never said n is the number of years. Now I have now in this case I have 10. I'm not really sure whether I'm going to multiply because of it depends on the number of compoundings. If I have the number of compoundings, I'll multiply. But if I don't have, that means my n remains to be 10. You see, only if there's a compounded quarterly or monthly or semi, I was going to multiply this 10 by something else, right? By the number of compounding, right? And then there's a machine which cost 120,000 is expected to have a useful life of 10 years. And then a scrap value. We said a scrap value will be the amount after that thing has depreciated, right? Now my scrap value is 45,000 rand. And now it makes sense because of 45,000 rand is is smaller than 120,000 rand, right? Now they're saying determine the annual depreciation rate on the reducing balance basis. Like I said, the reducing balance basis is A is equivalent to P into 1 minus I to the power n. Now you have your formula, and you have everything, like you have a formula. The question says you have to determine the annual depreciation, the annual depreciation rate. And I said whenever you see the word rate, that speak about the interest, that speak about your your interest. Now you are looking for your I. So what happens when you see A, you will put 45,000 rand, which is the amount after that thing lost value, and P, which is the original amount, so which is the amount before that thing lost value. It was 120, right? I have 1 minus I, since I'm looking for I. Now what is my n? My n is 10, right? So the first thing that I do, I have to make sure that I isolate the brackets, because I is within the bracket. So I have to remove everything that I see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide by the number in front of the bracket, right? So because I want to keep the bracket, so I'll divide both sides by 120, right? And then on my right hand side, I'll have 1 minus, okay, y, okay, and no longer right, okay. What's wrong with the pen? So, um Let me try this. Okay, let me do this. And okay, now it's right. Right. So now I'm looking for my eye, right? As I said, you will do it. Okay, what's happening? This is no longer. Okay, okay, okay. Let's wrap this mess, right? So I have to make sure that I remain with my bracket. So I'll divide both sides by 120, 120, right? I'll divide by 120, right? So what do? I cancel both sides on my right hand side. I'll be left with 1 minus I to the power 10. And then here, let's calculate what is, we have 45,000 rands over, okay, 120,000. Okay, and I get, on this side, I get what? I get 3 over 8, right? And looking at this, looking at my eyes, it's inside the bracket. Now I need to make sure that I remove this bracket, right? So remember, when you had x squared, what did you do? You took the square root of x squared for you to be left with x, right? Now in this case, I'm going to take, what do we call, the 10th root, because I want to remove the 10. So I'm going to take the 10th root. And what you do on the right hand side, you also do on the left hand side. And then on the right hand side, so that the 10th root as well as 10, they will cancel, and then I'll be left with 1 minus I. And then on my left hand side, I'm still left with the 10th root of 8 over of 3 over 8, right? And then what do? I'm looking for I, right? I'll transpose I to the left hand side, and then I'll take 1 and then transpose the 10th root of, and transpose the 10th root of uh 3 over 8. And now what is 1 minus, let's go, what is 1 minus, okay, the 10th root, what is 1 minus the 10th root of 3 over 8? Now I get, okay, I get 0.093426227726. No, it's a single 2, right? And what do? I multiply this number by 100. So for me to be able to present it into for me to present it as percentages, right? This is something that you need to make note of, that whenever you are determining your I, present your I in terms of percentages, right? So I'll say answer multiplied by 100. When I multiply the answer by 100, I get 9.34%. Now that's your I, right? Now we determine the annual depreciation rate using the reducing balance basis. Now this is 2.1, this was 2, this is 2.1. We were using the reducing balance basis. Now in 2.2, they're saying on the straight line basis. They're saying on the what? They're saying on the straight line. Can I do this? They're saying on the, okay, can I write? Okay, that's a on the what? That's a on 2.2. That's a on the, let me try to find a clear, you see a clear color. Blue. Okay, let's try with blue. No, okay, let's try with red. Right, yes. So looking at 2.2, I'll just look at 2.2. Here's our, okay, here's our 2.2, right? 2.2, we still have to calculate the annual depreciation rate on 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 the straight line basis. Now instead of using the reducing balance basis. Now we are asked to calculate the annual depreciation rate on. So with that, we are asked to calculate the annual depreciation rate on the straight line basis, right? So what do we do on the straight line basis, right? And then it's a matter of knowing those special names. We know that, okay, the A, the P, the N, and I. Okay, we are looking for I in this case, right? Okay, let me remove this. And then what do we know that we have to use? What do we call the straight? Now we have to use what do we call the straight line basis. And then the equation for the straight line basis is A equals to P into 1 minus I multiplied by A. Right? So now you are looking for I. Your A in this case remains the same. What is your A? Your A is the scrap value, which is 45,000 rands. And then your P remains the same, which is 120,000 rands. And then we have 1 minus, do we have I? No. We are still looking for this I. What is our N? Our N remains to be 10 in this case. Now we undergo the same procedure. What we want is inside the bracket, so we need to make sure that we remove everything right in front of the bracket. So when I cancel this, I'll be left with 3 over 8, which is equivalent to, okay, let me remove the bracket since I'll be left with, okay, 1 minus 10 I. Now, I want you to know that in this case, I can never be negative, right? Which is our interest. So what do? We transpose. We'll get 10 I, which is equivalent to 1 minus 3 over 8. Now, our 10 I, okay, what is 1 minus, okay, what is 1 minus 3 over 8? Now, that's 0,625. What do you do since we divide both sides by 10 since you are looking for the I? Now when you divide by 10, you get, okay, you get 0.0625, and thereafter you multiply by 100. In this case, answer multiplied by 100, it's what? It's 6.25%. You are done. You are done with the question 2, right? Look at this, just grade 11's work, but now let's go to the serious work. I've been longing to just simply do this question for a very long time. Okay, so let's do this. Now we look at question 3, right? Let me try to erase. Is the eraser? Let's check. Okay, let's try to erase. I wanna erase this, right? Okay, now let's go back and draw, right? Now I want you to note, now we are on question 3. All right, on question 3, it's a long statement, but you need to be careful of that. You need to be able to take those keywords. Now they're saying a hydraulic lifter costs 550,000 rand. You know that my cost is it's a P. So 550,000 rand becomes a P straight away. It is expected to have a useful life of 8 years. Now we are N is 8. We are not really sure whether we are going to multiply, because whether we multiply will be told in the statement, right? It will only be identified whenever we look at the number of components, whenever the number of components are provided in the statement. Now our N in this case becomes 8, right? And it depreciates. I want you to note they're saying it depreciates at 10% per annum. So on the reducing balance basis, what you have to know is that whenever it depreciates, right, they're saying it Okay, sorry for my spelling. Sorry. Whenever they're saying it depreciates, right? The first thing they're saying, it depreciates on the reducing balance basis. We know that the reducing balance basis is A is equivalent to P into 1 minus I to the power n. That's the reducing balance basis, right? And what is I for this reducing balance basis? It's 10%. Why am I saying I is 10%? They're saying it depreciates at a rate of, the moment they're saying at 10%, it simply means at a rate of 10% per annum, right? I'm not going to divide anything on my n, on my I because of, on my I because of the annual number of components. They're saying per annum, it's like per year, it's like compounded annually. If I divide by 1, still remains to be the same. So if I divide 10% is the same as 0, 1, right? Because if I say 10, if I say 10 over 100, if I say 10 divided by 100, I get 0, 1, which is equivalent to 10%, right? Okay. Now, I already know that I have my n, I have my p, and then for depre for dep for for depreciation, I know that I have I, which is 10%. Now the a remains the same, the p remains the same, and the n remains the same. The only difference will be on I, right? On the reducing balance basis. Now they're saying the cost, okay, the cost of the replacement lifter is expected to escalate. Just simply know that escalation is the same as inflation. It's expected to escalate at 18% per annum. I want you to note, right? So we know whenever we speak about escalation or inflation in something, we are speaking about an equation that has a positive sign, right? Why? Because of, we do know that a positive sign has to do with an increase in something. So the moment they say it, the moment they say it's expected to escalate, it simply means that it is expected to rise in cost, right? So what do? We use the equation with a plus sign. Now here's the question: do I use my simple interest or the compound interest? Note, it decreased, it depreciated on a compound interest, and then it will escalate on a compound what? It depreciated on a compound interest, it will still escalate on a compound interest. So what happens? So, which means I'm going to have my a will be equivalent to p into 1 plus I to the power n. And the other thing about escalation or inflation is that we don't have a constant value where we know that we don't have a constant value in which the goods increase by. So the cost, whenever the goods increase, we are saying okay, the cost goes high and high. That's why we're using a compound. So it decreased on a compound interest, and then it still rises on a compound interest, right? Your A, your P, okay, and then now your P will remain the same because P is the original cost, right? And then now they're saying it is expected to escalate at 18%. Now my I for this case is 18%. My I for escalation is 18%, right? Effective, right? And then a sinking fund is set up to replace a sinking fund is set up to replace the replacement lifter by by the hydraulic lifter in 18 years, not 18 years, in 8 years. So after 8 years they're going to replace the machine, and in 8 years time the machine will be like the cost we know that it will rise in 8 years time, right? And then the first thing they're saying, they want us to determine the scrap value of the old hydraulic lifter. And the scrap value is when the machine depreciates. We were told that it depreciated on the reducing balance method, meaning we are going to use this equation, right? So for 3.1, we'll say A is equivalent to P into 1 minus I to the power n. And what is our P in this case? Our P, that is the principal amount or the original amount. And then we say 1 minus, so it depreciated at 10%, which is equivalent to 0.1. And then what is our n there? We have 8. So now we calculate it straight away. Let's check. What is 550? And then we say 1 minus 0.1 to the power 8. Now we get this amount. We get, okay, let's check. We get this. Now we get this amount. That's 236,756, 9655, right? And then you can round off to 2 decimal places. And note, we only round off whenever we have arrived on the final answer. Whenever you will only round on the final answer, right? So that's 3.1. Now we have 3.2. 3.2, we are asked to calculate the expected cost of the hydraulic lift. We are on 3.2. We are expected to calculate the cost of the new hydraulic lift. We know that in 8 years' time, it is expected to escalate. It will rise in cost in 8 years, right? Because we were told in the statement. So the new cost will use the equation A equals to P into 1 plus I to the power n. And then A, in this case we have A, and then your P remains the same. You said the P, which is our original amount, and then we have 1 plus. Now it rises whenever we don't use the same interest. So 0.1 was our interest in which it lost value, and then now we have a new interest in which it increases, it gains value. So in this case we have 18%, like I said, is the same as 0.18 to the power 8. Now let's check. The only thing that we only change, okay, we have 0.18. Now in this case I get, okay, let's check. Okay, I want you to note I have 500. That's 550. 1 minus, okay, 1 plus. So yes, I was very surprised. Okay, yeah, now I have this amount. I have 2067372, which is approximately 2067372.56. Now this is the expected costing in 8 years time, so which means it increases in value, right? So the machine undergone what? It experienced inflation. So this is where we're saying the prices go. This is where the prices go up, right? So meaning the cost of the new hydraulic lift in 8 years time, it will be this amount. And then this is the scrap fail, in which we know that in this particular case it has lost value, right? So now let's look at 3.3. Before we head on 3.3, I want you to note, right, that on the sinking fund we have 2 types of scenarios, right? So we said, first thing we said, the sinking fund is an example of a future failure. Here we're speaking about the sinking fund, right? And we said the sinking fund is an example of the future failure. I want you to understand, right, that we have 2 scenarios, right? So today I may buy, okay, since we said a sinking fund is an amount, okay, a sinking fund is an amount used to do what? Is an amount used to replace old old material is an amount used to replace old materials. Right? So we're saying a sinking fund is an amount used to replace old materials. Now we have two types of scenarios in this case. I want you to be familiar with these scenarios, right? You need to get used to them, right? Because this is where like the examiner gets you. So the first one on the sinking fund is that suppose I have a chair, right? Suppose I have a chair made up of steel, right? And then as time goes on, this chair, you see, like it becomes like destroyed, right? Now I have to buy a new chair. Now I want a new chair. What do I do when I want a new chair? I have to save money for me to be able to buy the new chair, right? So if the chair, now listen to me, if the chair was okay, if the chair was turned, right? And in 8 years, maybe it can be 20. So what is the price of the new chair? The price of the new chair that I will use, the price that I will use, okay, the cost of the new chair will be 20 rand. That means I have to pay 20 rand. I have to pay 20 rand. Now suppose, listen to this one. Now suppose I were to return the chair. Now I know the chair maybe is broken, it's old. Suppose I may return the chair, right? I will, I will suppose, right? I were to return the chair to the store, right? So I return the old chair, right? And buy the new one with a lesser price, right? So if a new chair is 20 rand, and then I bring my old chair, and then whenever I bring my old chair for me to buy a new one, they no longer sell that new chair to me on a price of 20 rands. It becomes 15 rands. Now, what did I use now? We're saying I defrayed the expenses. I defrayed what? The expense. Now, I used my scrap value or the book value. Why am I saying my scrap value? It lost value, right? The moment it lost value, it simply means, okay, the moment it lost value, it simply means we know it depreciated, right? So now I take that old material and return it to the store. When I return it to the store, I no longer buy the new product on the actual price, right? So I get a discount of some sort. Why? Because of I've returned the old one, right? Or let's make this analogy. Let's start it again, right? Suppose I have a chair or chairs in classrooms, right? I have to replace those steel chairs, right? I'm going to save money. We're saying a sinking fund. It's a we're saying okay, a sinking fund is an amount that is used to do what? We're saying a sinking fund is an amount that is used to replace all materials, right? So if I have to buy like the chairs for the entire class, suppose those chairs were 8 rands, right? But because of I have old chairs that I'm gonna return to the store. So I took the old chairs and returned them to the store and then guess to buy new ones. For the fact that I took the old, they are going to do what at the store? They're going to take those old chairs, right? And they give me a discount, right? And then suppose the new price, the original price was 8 rand. So now they say, okay, because of Peter Maga, you have brought new chairs, old chairs, you have brought old chairs and you want new chairs. Just simply buy those new chairs with the price of 60 rands, right? So just simply know, it simply means my scrap value of the chairs now I have to use, now I have to buy those chairs with 60 rand, right? Now listen to me, the original price was 8 rand, but now because of I've returned those old chairs, I get 60 rand. What did I do? Whenever I do this thing of some sort, it is known as defraying the expense. Defray the expense. So to defray the expense using scrap value or book value, it simply means you take that old thing of yours and then you take it to the store. When you buy a new product of that thing, you no longer buy it on the original price, you get a discount. You see? So on those chairs, now listen to me. On those chairs, since I was supposed to use 8 rand to buy the chairs, and then now I have to pay 6 rand, that means the old chairs, the price of the old chairs will be 80 minus 60. Will be the original amount minus 6 rand. Now I get 20 rands. It simply means that my chairs on that particular case, they're worth 20 rand. So this is the scrap value of the chairs because they lost. This is the scrap value of the chairs because of they lost they lost value, right? This becomes the scrap value of the chair. So now right, I want you to note that if you are saying, okay, the scrap value of the chair is 20 rand, which it simply tells us that, okay, it simply tells us that for us to get the scrap value, we take the original price and minus the discounted version of that particular price, right? So the reason why I'm emphasizing this point is that sometimes they may choose to defray the expense, sometimes they may not. When they defray the expense, they will pay less. They are retaining that thing to the store. And when they are not defraying the expense, when I'm not defraying the expense, I'm not taking those chairs back to the store. It simply means that I'm going to pay 8 rands. Do you understand? So defraying expense, to defray the expense using book value of scrap value simply means you take that old product, you return it to the store, and therefore they give you a discount. Now let's go back to the question. You will see why am I bringing this. Just gonna wrap you. I will see why am I bringing this now. Okay, let's. Okay, just I wanna minimize this. But no, 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 no. Okay, that's just what I minimize. Mm, okay. Mm, let's wait a bit. Yeah, right. So what happens? We are still now. We are on question. Now we are still on question. We are still on question 3, right? We are on 3.3. So what's happening on 3.3? On 3.3, that's saying okay. The value of the sinking fund must attain. Okay, we need to calculate the value of the sinking fund that this person must attain if the scrap value is used to defray the expense. If the scrap value is used to defray the expense, like I said before, whenever we defray the expense, we return that thing from the store, right? Now, this is what happened.